Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful morning in Mesa, Arizona. We are very fortunate to have Senator Bowie with us this morning. What I thought we would do, as we've tried to do before, is go around the room, if you will, and introduce ourselves so that the good senator knows to whom he is addressing his remarks. And certainly I would like to start with Council Member Thompson. And then I will do my very best to go down the list and catch everybody. Sally will double check me on that. So Kevin, if you will.
Sure. Good morning, Kevin Thompson, Mesa City Council, representing the southeast part of Mesa, District 6.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else from the council with us?
Not yet.
Okay, good. Thank you. George?
Hi, George Bliss with Bliss Realty and Investments.
Glenn?
Good morning, everybody. Glenn Kasperzik with American Medical Response.
Thank you, Miranda.
Good morning, Miranda DeWitt, City of Mesa Government Relations.
Thank you, Susan.
Hi, this is Susan Stevenson. I'm with ASU Government Relations out at Polytech.
Morning, Aaron.
Hi, it's Aaron Dickens, Tech Systems. It's an IT services company.
You're Allison Brooks.
Good morning, Allison Brooks, Director of Group Services and Special Projects for Visit Mesa.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian Vivian, business owner, downtown Mesa, Thompson's Auto Repair and Towing.
Hi, Brian. Chad.
Good morning, Chad Wilson, the superintendent at the East Valley Institute of Technology.
Colleen.
Good morning. I'm Colleen Geary, Farm Bureau Financial Services. I'm a marketing representative.
Mr. Emmert.
Good morning, Eric Emmert, Norm Policy Group.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric Toon.
Good morning, Eric Toon with Brookfield Residential and Eastmark.
Thank you, Erica.
Hi, Erica Emmons from Cigna.
Mary.
Good morning, happy Friday. Mary Kaminska, your Avon lady.
Thank you, Ryan. Mr. Smith.
Ryan Smith. Yep, Ryan Smith, Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport.
Very good.
Director
Sang.
Government License.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, dear. Sang.
Yeah. Hi, Sang Lu with All Kiosks.
Thank you, Shannon.
Good morning, Shannon Hines with Guild Mortgage.
Thank you, Vanny.
Good morning, this is Vanny Wong from Bliss Pharmacy Services.
Thank you. Heston.
Morning, Heston Klink, Resolution Copper, Government Relations.
Thank you, Ward. I think I haven't talked to you yet.
Good morning, Senator Ward Nichols with Arizona State University.
Thank you. Howell, did we?
Douglas Howell with Boeing.
Thank you. How am I doing, Sally?
I'm looking.
That's everybody. Sorry?
Dr. Chad Wilson.
Chad? Did we miss Chad?
Chad Wilson from Event.
Oh, yep, thank you. Okay, and I am Joan Kruger from NEI Horizon Commercial Real Estate. Sally?
Oh, Sally Harrison.
Thank you very much. Well, the good senator allows us a bit of a bio, and I'm going to give him, present the abbreviated form, and then let him continue with anything else that he'd like to let you know. He and his family first moved to Chandler in 1994 because of the area's strong public schools and quality way of life. Since being elected to the Senate in 2016, Sean has consistently fought for increased investment in our local public schools and higher educational institutions. He's voted yes on multiple pay raises for our teachers and educators and opposed efforts to expand private school vouchers that would critically impact our local public schools, the same schools Sean attended growing up. Sean has also been a champion for mental health issues in our community and was the lead sponsor in 2019 of the Mitch Warnock Act, which requires all school personnel in grades 6 to 12 to receive training on suicide prevention. All issues very near and dear to the hearts of your constituents here this morning. So with that, I'll let you take it.
Thank you, Joan. Good morning, everybody. Good to see everyone bright and early here on a Friday. I'm here in my Capitol office right now. I think I'm the only one in the building right now because most folks are gone on Fridays. But great to spend time with all of you. I think I've met some of you in person at other events in the past, but great to spend time with you this morning. Just give a little more background on me. So I represent District 18 in the State Senate. I have a little bit of Mesa, not all of Mesa. I have the southwest part of the city. I've got the Dobson Ranch area, Mesa Community College, the Banner Hospital, basically Fiesta Mall and everything southwest of that in Mesa. I also represent all of Ahwatukee, where Eric Emmert lives, and South Tempe and West Chandler. So it's about 230,000 people, 4 cities. The 4 cities on the wall behind me are the ones I represent. This is my 5th legislative session, and very much enjoy my job and advocating for small businesses in Mesa and throughout my district. And it's certainly been another interesting session here at the legislature. We're coming up on our 100th day of the session on Tuesday. Generally, the 100th day is kind of the mark where we're supposed to be wrapping up the work that we're doing. We don't have a hard end date for when session ends. Most states do. We generally just go until we finish the budget and get all of our business done. Sometimes that's late April, sometimes that's May, sometimes it's June. Generally, we want to finish by June 30th. That's when the fiscal year ends and we need to pass the state budget. That's the biggest thing that we do. I can tell you that we're nowhere close to getting our budget done. So we're probably going to be here definitely into May, if not June. I'll expand on that in a couple minutes and give you some behind the scenes details of what's going on here at the Senate. A couple pieces of good news I wanted to start with, some recent things that we've done here in the Senate. Yesterday, you might have heard, we had a big bill signing yesterday at the Heard Museum in downtown Phoenix. Any of you who are interested in sports gaming or gambling in the state, the governor signed a pretty significant expansion to our gaming compacts here in the state. So anyone who likes to do online sports betting, that's now going to be legal in Arizona. Well, it's legal as of yesterday. So there's going to be sports books that are going to be opening throughout the state. There's going to be more casinos opening throughout the state. And if you go to our casinos here in Arizona, starting later this year, you'll be able to do roulette and baccarat and craps and all of these you can do in Vegas, you can now do in Arizona. So hopefully that means more dollars staying in the state of Arizona, more gaming revenue that we can use to fund all the things that we do as a state. 2 other tax issues that I think are important in the business community, the governor signed earlier this week, tax conformity legislation. It's something we do every year to conform with the changes at the federal level. So there are a lot of changes to the federal tax code, partly due to the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan. We've conformed with those changes, so that gives a lot more certainty to everyone who's filing their taxes, that you're not going to be taxed on things that you wouldn't be taxed at the federal level. So it does mean a loss in some of our revenue that we could have collected, several $100 million, but whenever the federal government makes changes, generally we make those same changes for state taxes. So it was important that we get that done. The governor signed that this week. You've got another month to do your taxes. So hopefully that'll give more certainty to everyone. That's the other piece of good news. We passed legislation last week to extend our filing deadline for state income taxes to May 15th. So I haven't started my taxes yet. I need to start doing that. But everyone has an extra month to file not only their federal, but also their state income taxes as well. Relating to the budget, that's the biggest thing that we do every year. I'm sure some of you will have questions about that. As you might have heard, we have a bit of a surplus as a state this year. That's due to a couple things. First, the budget that we passed in 2020 last year, we passed something called the skinny budget, which basically said that we were going into a pandemic. We passed this budget in March of last year, and we had a lot of plans for what to do with our surplus last year in January, but we shelved a lot of those because we had a lot of uncertainty about what the pandemic was going to look like, what impact it was going to have on our state budget. So we shelved those ideas and we passed a pretty bare bones or skinny budget last year. So we didn't spend as much money last year. Also, the revenues coming in were a lot better than we were expecting, particularly on the sales tax side. So There's more revenue available. And then when you add the federal dollars on top of that through the CARES Act and through the American Rescue Plan, we have billions of one-time dollars that we have available that we were not expecting. So there's been a lot of conversation here at the Capitol about what to do with those revenues. Generally, we have a rule at the legislature. The more money that is available, the longer the session goes, because people are fighting over what to do with those dollars. Do we want to return some of that money to the taxpayers? Do we want to make investments? Do we want to pay down debt? Those are all things that are being discussed. One of the main plans that has been proposed from some of my colleagues in the House on the Republican side is to pretty dramatically change our income tax system here in the state. So currently in Arizona, we have 4 brackets for our state income tax. As you make more income, the percentage goes up. The lowest rate is 2.59%. The highest rate is around 4.5%. So any income over, I think it's 160,000 a year, is in that top bracket of 4.5%, and it gradually goes down as you get to 0. So the plan that some of my colleagues have is to go to a flat tax and just go to one rate of 2.5%, which would technically mean a tax cut for everybody. But with our lowest rate being 2.59%, our highest rate being 4.5%, the vast majority of those dollars in cuts would go to those the higher end of the income scale. It's worth pointing out that Arizona currently has one of the lowest income tax rates in the country on average for those states that do have an income tax. We also have one of the highest sales tax rates in the country. So we have a system that's kind of already skewed, and there are a lot of concerns that I have and many of my colleagues have with that proposal. Generally, a lot of the surplus dollars that we have right now are one-time dollars, and a proposal to make a permanent change in our tax code that would cost over $1.5 billion a year is concerning. Keep in mind, our state budget is about $12 to $13 billion a year. So at $1.5 billion, that's over 10% of the revenue in our budget. The other concern about cutting the income tax is there was a voter-approved initiative decades ago as it relates to cities and the portion of income tax revenue that cities receive. So cities receive about 15% of the income tax dollars that are collected at the state level. And that was done to make sure that cities weren't passing their own income taxes at the city level. So any reduction in the income tax means a reduction in revenues to cities. I know for the city of Mesa, I think the impact would be $20 million a year if that plan were to go into effect. City of Phoenix would be over $60 million a year. For the 4 cities I represent, it would be over $100 million a year in fiscal impact. And as the councilman knows, and folks who work for the city know, over a majority of a city's budget goes to public safety, things like police officers and firefighters. So if Mesa were to lose $20 million a year in funding because the legislature decided to cut the income tax, that would have a pretty significant impact on the city and their ability to do their job and provide public safety and all of the benefits that they provide to their residents. So I have some concerns about that. There are ways that we can do tax reform. There's a lot of investments that we need to make as a state. In my opinion, there are investments that we have not made in the time that I've been in the legislature. And if we have the dollars available, especially one-time dollars, we should be doing those investments. I want to give Mesa a shout out for their commitment to higher education through their partnership with ASU, through their Promise program that they have for Mesa residents. That's something I've tried to do at the state level. So I give Mesa a big shout out for that. But higher education, investing there is really, really critically important for our business community, for economic development, for workforce development. And Arizona has not done a good job in terms of investments in higher education. Arizona has cut more from higher education than any state in the country since 2008. Tuition at our 3 state universities has increased more in Arizona than any state in the country since 2008. We're not making those investments. And the universities have a great proposal called the New Economy Initiative, which I'm very supportive of, which would invest over $100 million a year in specific high growth programs at our universities, programs like the engineering school at ASU, like the medical school at U of A. These are all great programs that we should be funding. So I'm very supportive of those efforts to fund that in the state budget this year. Our community colleges. I have Mesa Community College in my district, second largest community college in the state. They don't receive any funding from the state at all. Our community colleges in Maricopa and Pima counties receive zero. We should be funding them. They have a proposal for STEM funding, again, for specific workforce development programs. They want $12 million a year. It's not a big ask. We should be funding things like that. Infrastructure throughout the state. We have a lot of infrastructure needs, whether it's roads, bridges. There's a lot of projects that we can fund at the state level. There's a big one that I'm supporting. Anybody who's driven between Casa Grande and Phoenix lately, it's 2 lanes in both directions. We widened the I-17 up to Flagstaff a couple years ago. I'd like to see us widen the I-10 between Casa Grande and Phoenix. It would create jobs. It would help with traffic and commerce. Those are all things that we should be doing. Affordable housing is a really important issue for me as well. It's something that's impacting the city of Mesa. We have a housing trust fund that we used to fund on an annual basis, which we no longer do. That fund can help fund affordable housing projects in Mesa and throughout the state. We have an affordable housing tax credit that we would like to pass to give tax credits to developers to help fund affordable housing projects throughout the state, not just for the general population, but also for seniors and for veterans as well. So these are just a couple of examples of things I would like to see us prioritize in our budget this year. And if we eliminate over 10% of the revenue in our budget, that makes it a lot harder for us to fund those priorities. I am focused on growing our economy, supporting our business community. In order to do that, we have things that we need to fund. We have investments that we need to make. It's very easy just to come out and say, hey, nobody likes paying taxes. Let's just cut taxes. I'm open to that conversation. I'm open to pairing it with investments that we need to grow our economy and make us more competitive, especially when other states like Utah and Colorado and a lot of our neighbors are making those same investments and we're not. So those are things I would like to see in the budget. And on the topic of tax reform, I've introduced a tax cut bill this session that got out of the Senate with a very strong majority margin, which would create something called an earned income tax credit to pair with the federal earned income tax credit. It's something that 29 states have, and it would be a specific tax credit designed to help low-income working families. A family of 4 making about $50,000 a year would get about an additional $300 in tax credits from the state level. Those are dollars that are much more likely to be spent in our economy to buy basic needs. That's an example of a good tax cut that I could support. I'm a little biased because it's my bill, but again, I'm open to that conversation. But we have really critically important investments that we need to make as well. So we're going to be here for a while because I think there's a lot of disagreement about taxes, which taxes to cut, which programs to fund. So my prediction for all of you right now is at least early June. Early June is probably the earliest we'll be done. So stay tuned on that. Another thing I want to talk about, I know Eric's on the call and I've been working with Eric on this issue, is unemployment insurance reform. It's obviously become more important over the last year with the pandemic. We had many, many more Arizonans on unemployment. Many of you may know Arizona, we currently have the second lowest unemployment benefit in the country. It's $240 a week. We've sought to change that. And there's actually been strong bipartisan agreement that we need to do more to help those who are struggling, those who are on unemployment, so they can get back into the workforce and it helps grow our economy. We have bipartisan legislation that we've been working on that would increase that benefit amount to around $300 or $320 a week. We've worked really closely with the business community. Eric's been a leader on this, the different chambers of commerce throughout the state. So we want to increase the benefit amount, and we also want to do something. I introduced a bill that would do this, and now it's part of the overall package that deals with something called the income disregard. And what that means is if you are working part-time, let's say you had a 40-hour-a-week job and you were laid off, and maybe you picked up some part-time work, 8 to 10 hours a week. Under current law, if you work more than an hour or 2 a week, you cannot qualify for the full $240 in unemployment benefits. So there's really no incentive for you to try to pick up some part-time work if you're going to lose that overall unemployment benefit amount. So the language that we're working on would allow folks to do some part-time work and still receive that full $240 in unemployment benefits. So I think that would be a really important change to help those who are trying to get back to full-time work, but maybe they worked at a restaurant or they worked at a hotel and there's not the demand yet for those businesses to hire those employees on again. So I think that would be a really important step in the right direction. We've got some great legislation we're working on. My hope is it'll be voted on in the next couple of weeks. The business community has been very helpful in working on the language there. So my hope is it will get signed into law and we can no longer be second lowest in the country and help those who need the help. Last thing I'll mention, then I'm happy to take some questions. It was mentioned earlier, some of the work I've done on mental health legislation. There's a couple of bills I've been working on. I've had one bill already signed into law this year, which relates to providing greater support for our students in our K-12 schools. This new law that I had signed would basically say that mental health days for kids in K-12 schools, that they now count as excused absences. Kids who are struggling, who maybe need to take a day off or being bullied, mental health days and behavioral health days are now included in the list of approved absences, along with physical health reasons, a doctor's appointment, death in the family, and so on. So that is now signed into law. I have another bill that's this close to passing. It just needs a final vote in the House, and it would include mental health instruction in school health curriculums at all grade levels of K through 12. This is something that some districts are already doing. I want to give a shout out to Mesa Public Schools. They're already doing this work. But this would now mean that when the State Board of Education is developing the guidelines for health instruction, usually when you think health instruction, you think physical health. This would now include the mental health side of things in that instruction. So each district could administer it as they see fit, but there would be a general requirement that mental health, some kind of mental health instruction be present at all grade levels, K through 12. So that's my update. Happy to take any questions on the budget or any of the other crazy stuff we're working on at the legislature. But again, appreciate you having me and appreciate all the work that you do for our business community here in Mesa. Thank you.
Well, that was very informative. Yes, thank you very much. Some good things I wasn't aware of. So that's fantastic. I haven't seen any questions in the chat. Does anybody, let's see. Oh, there's Ward. And yes, we're excited to, Ward, I haven't seen you in a while. So great to have you involved.
I'm more excited that I brought up ASU and the need for the New York Times initiative. So
yeah, that higher ed thing really got to them, I think. So
we love it. We love it, Senator, and we appreciate your support on that initiative. It's we know it's a battle down there, and we believe economically, I mean, it can really be a game changer for not just us, but the other universities as well. So thank you for your support.
You have great universities. Yeah.
And I just want to point out for the record, I'm a big ASU homer as a alum, former employee, and now I teach at ASU, but I am advocating for the other universities as well, even U of A. So I just want to point that out for the record.
Very good. Does anyone else have a comment or a question for Senator Bowie?
This is Miranda from Mesa. I don't have a question per se, just a couple comments. First, Senator, thank you for always being so supportive of Mesa. It's been a pleasure working with you over the last several years. I really just wanted to reiterate the concerns of the flat tax proposal and the impact that it would have to cities and towns. And as you mentioned, you are correct. It is a $20 million annual hit to Mesa, and that will, of course, directly impact public safety. So the city is doing its best to educate members on the shared distribution formula and how the current proposal impacts us. And our ask has been, if there's going to be, which we anticipate there will be, if there's going to be major tax cuts that get through the legislature this session, that cities and towns just be held harmless. And so I just wanted to express our appreciation to you for your support.
Of course.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else?
Where's Eric Emmert? He's got a question.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Let me take Miranda's question a step further, Senator. You've been engaged in discussions in the Senate with the majority because, quite candidly, you're one of the practical Democrats that tends to vote on the budget when it makes sense. An example being more dollars for education. You voted for an education budget. So you're one of the Democrats that's somewhat in the room. In the Senate, there is not support for the flat tax proposal. Dare I say they're missing probably 4 to 6 votes over in the House on the Republican side to get that through. However, I think Miranda's right that we're going to get some sort of flatter system. What are your thoughts on how this is all going to shake out over the next 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. In terms of the budget, so I've had 4 budgets. And as I like to point out, when I talk to the governor's office, I've voted for at least a section of the budget 3 of my 4 years. And they'll say, well, you didn't vote for all of it, so it doesn't count. But I would disagree with that. Last year we had the skinny budget that I mentioned earlier. That was a very bipartisan budget. I voted, I think, for all the sections except for one. 2018, we had the 10% pay raise for teachers. It wasn't perfect, but I supported it. So I'm willing to have those conversations. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Senate and House makeup right now, the Senate is 16-14, Republican versus Democrat, and the House is 31-29. So you literally could not have a smaller majority unless it was a tie. And the way the legislature works is you need 16-31 to pass anything. Even if a couple people are out sick that day, you need 16-31. So all it takes is one member of the majority in either chamber, assuming all the members in the minority are not supporting it, to stop everything. So on the budget, as Eric mentioned, I know there's a couple of my colleagues here in the Senate, there's a few in the House who do not support the flat tax proposal. So we have to pass a budget every year. It's the only thing that we have to do. So the next couple of weeks are going to be very difficult as people are fighting and threatening others. And I could write a book about all of that stuff. It's a lot of fun. I've been very open with my Republican colleagues and said, look, I'm probably one of the few Democrats who's willing to have the conversation about tax reform and do some kind of tax cut. One possible idea is Senate Bill 1108. I was the only Democrat in the legislature to support it. I got a ton of grief about it, but it has to do with the commercial property tax and lowering that. I understand there's a need for that from 18 to 17%. That's maybe something we can include in the budget. The fiscal impact of that is, I think, less than $200 million a year. So compared to $1.5 billion, that's a much more preferable option. My earned income tax idea that I mentioned earlier, it's about $75 million a year. So that doesn't cost a lot. So if there were a proposal around those two things and also making investments in all those areas that I talked about, that's potentially something that I could support. I'd be willing to stick my neck out and be the only Democrat or one of only a few Democrats to support that. I just think the flat tax idea, again, we hear criticism of Democrats all the time, like, oh, you want to fund teacher raises with one-time dollars. You want to make these long-term investments with one-time dollars. Well, this is an idea for a long-term cost using one-time dollars. We're going to be losing revenue that we can't use for other things, largely using one-time dollars. So I have a lot of concern about that, but I've started having those conversations with my Republican colleagues. I'm working on an actual budget spreadsheet with things that I would like to see in the budget. So I'm open to that conversation, but I think the flat tax idea, for a lot of reasons, including what Miranda mentioned, Mesa losing $20 million of their annual budget, Phoenix losing $60 million of their annual budget, that's a problem. And it would be largely defunding the police, defunding fire, things that we should not be doing. So I think we're going to be here a while, Eric, to answer your question.
Thank you, Senator. And then, Madam Chair, if I can make just 2 comments.
Floor is yours.
Number one, Senator, thank you for your work on unemployment insurance. We believe that the benefits need to be adjusted, of course, and you've been willing to have those conversations about how do we do it in a way that that least impacts a hurting business community, encourages people to get back to work, and gets them adequate benefits to get through a rough period in their personal history. And then secondarily, on economic development, you were one of the few Democrats that voted for 2321. That was a quality jobs tax credit bill. By no coincidence, very close to your district. Intel, the same day that bill was signed, announced a $20 billion expansion. That trickles down into the East Valley economy, especially Mesa, because of all the suppliers to Intel and the economic multiplier on that. So thank you for your vote against the majority of your caucus on that particular bill, and that's going to benefit the East Valley for years to come.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Eric. 2321, the manufacturing tax credit, it's something we renew usually about every other year. It's very important to my district. My two largest employers are Intel and Honeywell, and they employ thousands of people in my district. The $20 billion investment is just outside of my district, but it's going to create thousands of jobs. And like Eric said, it helps grow jobs that are related to Intel and Honeywell, Microchip, and all the other manufacturing firms that we have here in the East Valley. So that was a big win. I was happy to support it. I think I'll be there at the groundbreaking this fall when they decide to break ground on that facility in Chandler.
It's great news on several levels. So thank you so much. Any other questions, thoughts for the senator? Going once, going twice.
Hi.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank you very, very much for being here. It's sharing the Zoom stage and all the great things, and certainly don't envy you the fun, I think you referred to it as, over the next few weeks. But we do appreciate so much your service and your assistance for the impact on the East Valley. So we have a very limited remaining agenda for which you are certainly welcome to stay, but we also know you're a busy man. So we thank you and wish you a great day.
Well, and Joan, thank you. Just to say real quick, thanks everybody for having me. Shout out to Sally Harrison and all the great job, all the great work that she does with the Mesa Chamber. I represent 4 cities, so I have 4 chambers that I work with, and it's always a pleasure to work with Sally and the team that she has there in Mesa. So great to see all of you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We like her too. Well, very good. Thank you. Mr. Emmert, I'm going to give you a few minutes if you've got some things you want to update us on. Allison has asked for just a minute before we adjourn for the day to talk about a program she's got. So with that, Eric, do you have things you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Bowie did an excellent job outlining the session, so I'm not going to cover too much stuff that he already covered, but we have had some wins from bills that we've supported since we last met, and I'll touch on those. Of course, Senator Bowie talked about conformity. That hits across the income spectrum, across all industries within the business community, because a lot of our businesses have a flow through from their LLCs to their personal income taxes. So knowing that you can take your PP loan off of your income section of your taxes is extremely helpful to know from a business community perspective. So thanks to the legislature for that. Of course, we talked about quality jobs, House Bill 2321. The supply chain effect on that particular bill to Mesa businesses, especially our manufacturers, is significant. So as we talked, it's a big win for the East Valley. 1377, COVID liability protection. That's a bill that increases the standard for bringing a COVID tort against a business. However, if you've been following CDC guidelines and been trying to protect the public and your employees to the greatest extent possible, there's now a higher standard for someone to bring a court case against you because of that bill. It doesn't go into effect until the fall, of course, but if you're an attorney out there hunting for those types of lawsuits, Arizona is no longer an attractive area to seek some sort of tort on that particular issue. Senator Bowie talked about the income tax extension that got signed, so you don't have to have your taxes done as of yesterday. You have until May 17th to get those in. Another bill that's been a priority of ours for several years, actually, although not a top priority, has been a Prop 105 disclosure bill that Governor Ducey signed. What it does is puts atop the initiative section of the ballot kind of a disclaimer as to what Proposition 105, which was passed back in 1998, did. A lot of people that are new voters that are turning 18 and going through their first election cycle, or people that have moved to the state don't know about our so-called Voter Protection Act, or Proposition 105, which requires 3/4 of a majority for a bill to pass in each chamber of the legislature that furthers the purpose of whatever is passed at the ballot. So the bar is really high to try and change things for the ebbs and flows of a dynamic economy or changes in technology. It's just very difficult to change something that has passed at the ballot, and people should know about it. Vote for or against the initiative, however you want, but just be aware that we have that in place. Another bill that is sitting over in the House that we care about is Senate Bill 1083. It's an alternative tax filing for small businesses. As stated, LLCs oftentimes choose to have their tax liability flow through to their personal income taxes. And business income is significantly different than personal income. So that liability flows through, but there may not be income coming in to that person's particular income tax filing. And this would allow them to do something separate. It avoids Proposition 208. It does. The additional 3.5% surcharge that was passed at the ballot this past fall. But without small businesses having that income coming in, but having the liability, we think it's a better way to go. So that bill is sitting over in the House. Of course, there's a lawsuit on Proposition 208 that is going up to the Supreme Court. So we'll see how all this plays out. Senator Bowie touched on unemployment insurance. We've been a leader on that particular issue and trying to negotiate with Representative Cook, which can be a challenge at times. We've been working very closely with Karen Fann, Senate President, on her version of the bill, and met with Representative Cook earlier this week. So there are differing opinions about how that is supposed to be structured, but I think it's safe to say that we'll get some sort of unemployment insurance reform out of the House probably this year that includes many of the provisions that Senator Bowie mentioned that are supported by both Republicans and Democrats. On budget, to add just a few more comments on that, there are some issues that we're waiting for direction from the U.S. Treasury on, especially regarding what constitutes a tax decrease. An example being the unemployment insurance fund. If you put money into that particular fund, the net effect of that is a tax decrease on businesses. So does that count as a tax decrease, or a tax decrease and prevent you from drawing down the federal stimulus money, or doesn't it? So those sorts of answers, I know Matt Gress is waiting on, Richard Stavniak over at JLBC, so on and so forth. So that's part of the budget equation, just adding to the comments that Senator Bowie made about a protracted budget season. So shifting to the federal, unless there are any questions on state issues. Okay, shifting to the federal discussion, of course, the Biden administration introduced its infrastructure plan. Part of that is a request coming down from members of the House. Please note Representative Greg Stanton, who's on the Transportation Committee in the House, requests for specific projects that are viable, that could be funded in the federal infrastructure plan. We pushed a streetcar project that would run from downtown Tempe over to Sloan Park and Mesa Riverview. We've pushed that for several years, but included an advocacy letter in the application that the city made on that particular project. Additionally, we had some discussions with Congressman Stanton about the PRO Act. That's a very pro-union bill going through the Congress right now. It essentially takes away our right to work here in Arizona. So big step forward for the unions if that were to get through Congress and signed by the president. It has problems in the Senate, but provisions may get through on other bills. So that discussion will continue. So Lot to digest, but that ends my report, Madam Chair, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. What a substantive morning we've had. So much stuff going on. Thank you very much. Any questions on any of that for Eric? All right. I will next go to, Ms. Harrison reminds me that our speaker for next month will be Congressman Greg Stanton. My office is actually right next to his in Phoenix. So it's fun to see what's going on there all the time. But any other questions, I will defer to Allison for her remarks if no one else has any. All right, thank you. Allison, you want to tell us about your program?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Allison from Visit Mesa. I mentioned earlier that part of my job is special projects, and something I'm charged with is expanding. Not only, as you all know, we're the first certified autism city in the entire United States and in the world. So we'll be expanding upon that initiative, but also what accessibility looks like in our city. And I'm really proud to announce, and this is, you guys are getting the first scoop this morning. No one else even knows about this yet. We're actually going to be announcing this very soon and sending out an email to our partners today. But I figured this is a great place to start. So this is the Visit Mesa Hidden Disabilities Sunflower Program. And it is a very simple way for anyone who has a hidden disability. And as you might guess or know, a hidden disability would be something like autism or something like anxiety, or they're hard of hearing, anything that you just visually cannot see. And it's a way for people to identify themselves as that they have this disability. So that when they come into any business, that it's very obvious. So this is it's a lanyard, and hopefully you can kind of see it on my virtual screen. Bright green with sunflowers, you definitely can't miss it. So if someone was wearing this lanyard, and we also have a wristband for anyone who wouldn't be comfortable with that. So anybody that's wearing one of these, it's very easy to identify that this person might just need a little extra time or care or anything like that. It's such a simple concept. It started over in the UK. And they were very successful with it in airports and things like that. And I saw this program and I said, why are we not doing this? So excited that we are the first city and the first DMO in all of the US to be rolling this really cool program out. And so my ask of you, while I have you all here, is just help me get the word out. So you're going to see Visit Mesa talk about this. I'm going to try to be on every council or every meeting I can, for that matter, every meeting I can possibly be on to talk about this. But my ask is anyone who has some influence, some way to tell somebody, please get in contact with me, because I need your help, because it falls flat if people don't recognize what this is. So that's the biggest challenge. And so, by the way, these are complimentary. Anybody can come and pick them up in our lobby at Visit Mesa, as well as there will be a list of other key places like hotels, attractions in our city, hopefully the Mesa Gateway Airport as well. So thank you in advance for any help that you can give me to get the word out about this.
Allison, that is near and dear to my heart. And so I think it sounds like a lovely program. Certainly can eliminate some difficulties in our interpersonal communications going forward. So it sounds
Thank you for the time to talk about this.
Good luck. Good luck. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have anything that they need to deliver, any message this morning?
Councilmember Thompson, Mike.
Mr. Thompson?
Sure. I always love talking about Mesa. Yeah, we're a lot of exciting things going on in Mesa. Talking to economic development last week, we have about 12 million square feet of industrial spec that's in the pipeline for Mesa. So that could be anything from manufacturing to last mile delivery to warehousing and so forth. So that's always a good thing because it's jobs. We broke ground a while back on Cannon Beach, which, if you don't know, that's the Wave Lagoon that's going to be at Warner and Power, just off the 202. It's going to be a professional, I guess the best way to describe it is it's being built for competition surf. And so they're actually bringing surf competitions to Mesa, Arizona. So you no longer have to go to the ocean to surf. And so they said that they'll teach people from 2-year-olds all the way up to geriatric folks to surf if they want to learn how to surf. And so it's kind of cool. They can adjust the wave height and the whole 9 yards. So that was really cool. Electromechanica. No, this guy doesn't surf.
Surf Mesa is going to be a big t-shirt seller at Visit Mesa.
Right. Yeah. Let's see what else here. Yeah, Dexcom. If you haven't seen already, Dexcom took down about a 500,000 square foot industrial spec down off of Ray Road, Ray and Hawes, roughly, and they've quartered off 30,000 square feet of their warehouse and are using that. They partnered with the state for drive-through COVID vaccine. So it is air conditioned. So they're putting needles in about 3,000 arms a day coming through Dexcom. So they've really got that set up really, really well. They worked a lot with state health and local authorities and so forth. But it's amazing what they're doing out there, and so kind and generous to give back to the community in that fashion. And so with the hot weather approaching, they're able to vaccine people in the cool comforts of air conditioning inside the warehouse. So that was kind of cool. Electromechanica announced that they were coming to Mesa. That's the all electric vehicle. So we're the first city in Maricopa County that has electric vehicles, and we're also Bill Jajiniak tells me we're in the running for another electric vehicle manufacturer that's looking at Mesa as well. So a lot of very cool things happening across the entire city, and I tell you, I always say it's a good time to be a council member because it's really exciting. When I first got elected, we were just coming out of the recession. There wasn't a whole lot going on, and now to see where we are, all these years later, compared to where we were when I first took office, it's amazing. Fun time.
Very good, thank you. I happy to, even though I'm a Gilbert resident, live very close to the Mesa border and certainly your district, council member, and deliberately drove by Dexcom the other day just to see how the traffic situation worked with all the construction that's going on over there. And Ryan, you probably drive through there as well, but at the point that I drove, it was beautiful. It was magic. There was no evidence that all those cars were going through there a day. It just flowed like it was wonderful. It flowed. So very well done for everyone. Hasn't caused any trouble. So thank you. I appreciate, council member, that you giving us all of that. So I
got to do a real quick plug for Ryan and the airport.
Good.
They started construction on the tower, so the new
Good.
tower is starting to be built now. So hopefully, Ryan, when is that going to be finished up? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Summer of 2022. We just went vertical 2 days ago. So
yeah,
it's a start. And then we announced new daily service on a Velo to Burbank. So that starts 2 weeks from now.
Right.
Love it. Love it. All right. Yeah.
Very
Great
cool.
things happening. As you say, council member, as you know, I live in an area that was approved 20 years ago as well. So just really fun to see this part of our geography blowing up. I love being here. So, all right. And Sally's asked me to remind everybody about the state of the city, our virtual State of the City on April 21st at 6 p.m. And you can go to mesachamber.org to register if you have not done so already. Again, next month, remember, Congressman Stanton. So we'll look forward to seeing you all then. And thank you very much for the great turnout for Senator Bowie this morning. And again, thank you for being here. You guys have a great, beautiful weekend in Arizona. We'll see you next month.
Thanks, Jen.
Bye.
Thanks, Senator. Stay connected to Mesa Chamber social media, email newsletters, Monday morning message, and mesachamber.org to always know what's happening at your Mesa Chamber.